news is we have some raindrops on the 7-day, but
We do.
will it be
Someone
much?
sent in a picture last night we shared at 11 of an inch of rain in their water gauge.
And they're, yeah.
Helpful.
Yep.
I said progress.
Yeah, it's something. You know, I think it's going to come down to where that low ends up on Monday, whether or not it's a helpful amount of rain, which we'll discuss because that's the only difficult thing in the next 7 days in the forecast. One thing we know is that with the chilly temperatures today, we're only in the 50s. Average high is 62. It's getting down there a bit, so it's not crazy to be 57 or 55 as we were in Bangor. But it's going to be cold tonight, so we have a freeze warning in effect for a good part of the state. And as I mentioned before, but I feel I have to continue to because it's an interesting tidbit here, the mountains in northern Maine don't have a freeze warning. They're going to be cold, but they've already had a freeze, so they don't issue those once you've had your first hard freeze of the season. And that's why you don't see it in the mountains. Tonight we'll drop down to about 32, even along the coastline. Upper 20s or so inland, and then I went really cold from Sanford to Freiburg into Berlin into Laconia. I dropped the computer model guidance by several degrees there because I think it's going to really radiate out with clear skies and light winds. You'll notice this model gets nowhere close to that. I think it has a warm bias overnight though in these situations, so that's why I knocked off a bunch of degrees there. Either way you wake up, it's cold tomorrow morning. And it stays chilly for the first few hours, but we rebound pretty well considering how chilly we were. Get to about 60 degrees with a lot of sunshine. The mountains likely stay in the 50s for high temperatures, so it's not going to be as warm there, but considering we start in the 20s, still not bad. And then Saturday is the kind of the lock of the weekend. It looks really nice. We'll call it partly cloudy to mostly sunny. Temperatures in the mid 60s, so it's really quite pleasant. Clouds start increasing on Sunday from the south. And we get fairly cloudy, especially along the coastline, I think, on Sunday. Some of these are high, thin clouds. Some of it are mid-level clouds, but there's certainly more clouds around than what we're going to see on Friday or Saturday. Then the question of Monday comes in. So we stay dry Saturday, Sunday. Sunday night into Monday, this subtropical low tries to plow into this ridge. And the models have really honestly been all over the place with this as to how far north that low can progress. So the European model keeps it largely to our south. That gives us an isolated shower over southern Maine on Monday. The GFS, though, drives that low farther north and wraps rain around, and it's a legitimate rainy day on Monday. We're erring towards the European model, but we do have showers and rain in the forecast for Monday. It's just going to be a matter of magnitude, I think. And it's important because of what we just talked about. Amanda and Bailey were talking about fire management and where we were as far as the drought goes. We had the drought monitor come out yesterday, and so this is what it was last week, and just to set the expectation of where we were, and then watch what happened with the drought monitor yesterday. It expanded the extreme drought area into more down East Maine, back more into Oxford County, into New Hampshire was one of the biggest changes. It also expanded farther north, that severe drought area. And so this doesn't include the rain that we had yesterday, but I'd also argue that wasn't enough rain for it to really matter that much. So this could be more important than it seems, not only because a lot of people have that day off, but because we could get some more substantial rain if that low can wrap in there. Big implications into next week too, because whoever wins that model battle on Monday will set the tone for early next week. If the GFS is right, then it will be showery on Monday, Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday morning. If the Euro is right, then we'll have none of that, and we'll have just a couple isolated showers. So we'll keep an eye on that. One thing for sure, no big warmth in the forecast. The highest temperature in there is probably 65 or so on Saturday. And again, at this point you should be prepared for things freezing, but tonight will be the coldest night we've had this season so far.
We're just not used to it, you know. We've
Yeah.
got
Well,
spoiled.
I'm certainly not used to it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This is going to hit.
It's going to be a long season.
It's going to be a long winter for me.
She'll be wrapped up in her blanket in the corner.
I get it.
Well, yesterday I admittedly did wear my blanket at the desk.
That's okay.
underneath.
That's fine.
We have our own climate here anyways.
We've all done that.